What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? How's everybody doing today?
How's it
Today
going?
is August 26th, 5 days before my birthday, and we're here doing this podcast. What's going on, Super Dave? What's going on, Mark? How y'all doing today?
I'm doing great, man. A little tired. That jet lag's getting out, but we here.
That's right. We appreciate everybody chiming in today. This is probably, I think, our third time going live, or is our fourth time? I can't remember at this point. All right, I feel like it's our
Second
third
live,
time going
third
live.
record, right?
Hey, that's a good point. Second live, third recording. Appreciate everybody jumping in today. Today's topics are pretty much point blank. The biggest thing of the week is $13 million card. We're going to talk about that today. The other aspect of it is three shows, one weekend, three major shows, one weekend will be another topic. And then after that, we'll open the floor for a conversation. Any questions or concerns anybody want to have a conversation about? Uh, man, man. So, Dave, I know you wanted to talk about this, so I guess I'll give you the floor first, and we'll let you speak your piece and your case. Or should we talk about some other things first? What you
No,
want to do?
listen, I, I mean, I'm happy to jump into the 13 mil. Um,
Go ahead.
well, but I also, I'm particularly interested to hear from you guys. So I want to, but let me set it up a little bit. How about?
You want to set it up a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
So before we talk about this particular card, let's talk about some of the most recent top sales before this one had just passed. Before that one, it was the SGC 95 Mickey Mantle, 52 Mantle. It did
Yep.
$12.6 million, right? Um, there's some other highlights. I'm not going to sit here and say we have it in any chronological order, but of course, there's the Honus Wagner for $7.25 million. That's a private sale, SGC2. Also, the Babe Ruth 1914 Baltimore News card that did about 7.2 million. Then there's also the National Treasures logo man Steph Curry that sold privately for 5.9 million. Exquisite LeBron number to 23 that did 5.2 and 2021. Then of course there's some recent ones too. There's a number to 23 that did recently 4.6 million. And we'll talk about this company named Secure while we're talking about this $13 million sale. And then there's also Patrick Mahomes NFL Shield that sold for $4.3 million, and so on and so forth, right? There's just a few, some of the highlights. I mean, how do we feel about this? Because I know last time we had this conversation, we talked about, was this card worth it?
Yeah.
We
Well, when you talk about one of the best cards, right, in existence in basketball terms, that's probably going to be near the top. So when you're saying that if that's the best card, then obviously it's going to command that kind of value. Do I think it's the biggest card that there is to buy in this entire industry? I think there's probably one or two that are probably a little bigger than that. And I think that there's some that, if they go to auction might do 20, 30, 40 million dollars.
okay,
But I mean, again, if we're just talking about this card, look, we said it when it first went to auction that this card was going to probably be the biggest card to ever, be auctioned or to be ever be sold. And it did that. So it proved everybody right that this is probably the greatest card in existence for the NBA. And I think that is going to be probably top five in regards to most expensive cards all time throughout, the industry.
okay. I mean, that pretty much sums it up for for conversation of it being the top card for right now. But here's something I want to ask you guys because I was thinking about this while you were talking, Mark. Private sales versus auction. You know, and it's something probably you're gonna probably talk about, David, because I feel like you're gonna lean towards this. When we hear about these private sales, how convinced are we when it comes to, like, is it actually a real sale
Hmm.
versus, when we see something on auction, I mean, it's so many different things we could talk about when you're talking about private versus auction. We know people boost and hike up prices of cards, right, to get max dollars or to at least seem like it's people that are competing with each other. But when we talk about a private sale, a card sells for 4.6 million. Do you think? I think that with the number to 23, LeBron, do you think that's like the top of the ceiling? If it ran on auction, is that the max? It probably does. I mean, the person that like this car sells for 12.93. This guy was offered $8 million, and then it sells for $13 million in open auction. That's kind of a prime example. I think Sean reached out to the guy and tried to offer him $8 million a couple years ago, maybe during right after COVID or something like that, and then now it's in open auction. Now it's $13 million. I mean, how do you guys feel about private versus an auction? And I mean, do people get max dollars?
I mean, a couple things regarding the private, and you bring up a good point on it. Um, in order to have any level of confidence around things that are thrown around for a private sale, right? You're effectively relying on the trust of the people that you're talking to. And what I would add to that is it's not just as simple as getting a copy of a bank statement or a wire transaction, right? Because you could any of us, I mean, we can exchange any amount of money we want to between each other on this podcast, right?
Yeah.
And there could be a handshake side deal that says, oh, we're going to tell everybody that it's for this one card. But turns out
Right.
like there's a stack of jerseys and some shoes and some art and some,
Yeah.
and some signs to put in your front yard to go with it.
Some
So
throw-ins.
yeah, I mean, look, I think that no matter how much diligence you put around a private sale, I think that it's natural and I think it's fair for the majority of people to have some level of skepticism about, how real that really is. And I
Yeah.
and from the open auction standpoint, to as long as things get paid for, right? There's no whether or not who's on either side of it, right? The auction houses bring a level of certainty to those
Mm.
transactions that I think gives all of us and the market in general actually a much better and a more concrete financial number to be able to have real confidence in. But and again, that's related. It has to be paid for. I mean, we've seen examples. You remember when Golden first auctioned off that case of Wayne Gretzky hockey boxes, and it sort of got paid for, but it wasn't all of it, and they had to redo it. And so, there have been times where things didn't get paid for, but this is not one of those times.
Mm-hmm.
This clearly got paid for and good. And so, my take on that is that I think the private sales, no matter what anyone says, there's a level of skepticism that has to be on those from in a provenance concept. They're not as good as open auction, in my opinion.
Man, well, I mean, Lewis brought up a good point. I mean, there's shield bidders that are involved with auctions. So whether or not a auction gets paid for and how it got to that level is always has skepticism. And I mean, we can go back and forth all day. I mean, there's pros and cons to just about anything in life, and it all depends. All will gravitate to which side of the fence you're going to be on. I'm in the on the side that I like public auctions because they, like you said, they give us concrete data of where the pulse is on the hobby. With private, you won't be able to, that same vibration won't hit the hobby until an auction comes along, and then it realizes what the market is dictating at that time. I'll give you a good example. I was at the Burbank Car Show this weekend. I have a preeminence MJ Auto that had an offer on like 35K. It was a True Gem Plus Perfect Auto. Come Sunday, came to my attention that one pretty similar to mine, a Min Gem, moved in the ballpark of 30 to 35,000. Right, the last comp on it is like 23. Public sale, and so
Yeah.
that private data at a show didn't resonate throughout the ecosystem because there's no public data to justify that increase. Not until the
Mm-hmm.
one that I eventually put on auction on all goes off, right? We'll actually see what the increase or how hot the market is for that specific card until that sale realized in 2 weeks. So again, usually auctions are the last data point that we have to kind of use and leverage to make our financial buying decisions. But a lot of the times that doesn't happen to 2, 3, 4 weeks down the line. And here we are buying at comps little under comps, and don't really understand that there's potential financial gains that are coming down the pike once that next auction runs. And so that's another topic for another day. But yes, I'm definitely for public sales because they help the entire community.
Yeah, I agree with that. The unfortunate truth is private sales don't necessarily help with gauging actual idea what value really is on a particular card, especially when you're dealing with like the high end market, because the low end market it's a trickle down effect, right? If I know this card is if that card is worth $20 million, then what is this card worth, right? It's always that skepticism of what is that something actually worth. And when we get this, because we're all lucky enough to be dealers, right? We go to shows every weekend. We know what's going on. That's why we've talked about it in previous podcasts where we talked about the card shops, I'm sorry, the college card shows being like a marketplace, and we get a chance to be able to be live and see what's going on, like who's buying who's what's not selling, so we know how to buy through the course of the week, and then we know how to operate going forward. So if you miss a show or miss a month, you're like out of the loop at that point, especially if you're not engaged on a daily basis. So I mean, prime example, I'm not going to say a particular card, but I'm just going to say a card sells for $90 million and the last sale is $45,000. And we see other trickle down effects start to happen. You know how to gauge and how to buy. Reason why I won't mention the name is because I don't want nobody to necessarily buy any particular thing or tell anybody what to buy. But I know, David, you hate those type of things.
I don't. Well, my look, you both know though. Like, I mean, my general angst and at some level disdain for this stuff is the focus on the dollar amounts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the best way I know how to capture it is like I have no expectation of ever being able to afford a card like that. That's just the reality of it. And even if I did, let me tell you something. There are about 1,999 other things I'd rather buy if I had that money.
Yeah.
And there are 4,000 other places on the planet I'd rather go than to own that card. And that's just me, right? And I ascribe value to everything in my life. So, but that doesn't take away from, I think, a fair level of excitement, a fair level of surprise, but also the reality that there are other people out there getting involved in this stuff, and I think that they're doing it from at least some place of passion for it as well, even if a great deal of their passion may be, tilted towards a ultimate return on selling the thing to somebody else. Like, I don't view these things through that same investment lens as I believe the two of you guys do, and the way that I certainly think that syndicate of buyers will ultimately view these things. But again, that doesn't mean that I can't and that we all shouldn't share some excitement about it. I just think that nice, and I'm hoping that part of what we talk about tonight is tempering that excitement back into the reality of what it's like to be a part of this hobby and move and be able to move a little bit away from the financial value of it and much more towards the what makes it unique, what makes it special, and the
Yeah.
characteristics of that specific card, but then the general idea of how those specifics can be applied to the other things that are out there that are within the reach of each of the different level of people that are participating and trying to collect cards in the hobby. So I hope
Look,
I said that well, but
let me say something real quick. I'm sorry, Mark. I apologize because you made me think about this, David. Yeah, I'm sorry, cutting you off. Look, I really, I hate that you're right, David, but you're right. You know, the first thing we heard Mr. Wonderful say was investment, 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 money, money, money. Not I like this card for this reason. This is an investment. Secure is a business. Secure, they're doing like we talked about this years ago, Mark. These big businesses that are going to come into the space, tell us they know more about the space than we do when we've been in this space for longer. And obviously, we know how to operate in this space. Here's a quick question for both of you guys, and I'm gonna let you speak, Mark. You spend $13 million on a card. How long are you holding it, and how much money do you expect to sell it for? How do you gauge that?
Hey, somebody give me 14 million, they can have it. No, but I'll tell you
that's
this,
a real question though. Like
tip your cap to the man answering the question honestly. So it's good on him.
Yeah, look, man. I tell y'all guys this. Look, we talk about a lot in this industry. We talk about how to grow it or ways to grow it. There's so many avenues to come in and make money. That dual logo man's a milkshake, right? It brought everyone to the yard, right? It brought your mom, your sister. My son woke me up in the morning talking about, man,
that's true.
Daryl used to own that card. I was like, yeah, one of many. I said, but he's okay. He sold that thing a long time ago, made $150,000, and the money back then was a lot different than it is today. And look, more eyes, more space. What it'll create is buzz, and now they have to sustain that buzz. Now it can't just be one in and out, and then everything implodes on itself. But I think the time that we're in right now, it's a lot different than the COVID market, right? Because we're starting to see a lot of prices reach the levels of what they did when, during COVID. And everybody, refers back to that time of all time sells this and all time sells that. We're starting to see that again, but it's a more calculated approach. It's a more, I think, a sustainable, horizon. But I don't think it lasts forever. Obviously, with any market in economics, there's always going to be an upslope and a downslope and an upslope and a downslope. And it's just natural economics. But I will say this, man, in terms of worth and value, they're two different things. Everybody can have an idea or a guess on what a perceived value is, but until someone pays for something, then we'll know its actual worth. And so for me, it's like we can both go back, all three of us can go back and forth on what we think the next level is. But until that next sale comes, it could be more, it could be less than that 13 million that they spent. But we won't know until that next sale happens. And from the looks of it, they're not looking to let anything go. Judging from Shine's track record, he rarely sells anything that's in his asset catalog.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, also just a note too that Secure, the new company Secure, also are responsible for the $4.6 million LeBron James gold number 23. They bought that as well. They bought that a week ago, and then they bought this one. So just kind of like kudos to those guys. And I think most recently, as I read on their Instagram page, that they're continually looking for high graded cards, PSA 10, the best of the best is what they're promoting. So I'm sorry, David, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and we won't know until later, possibly, what else is going to be in that fund, right? Listen, I'm a little bit of a details guy, right? And I'm not trying to let some cat out of the bag. Again, I'm as excited as anyone that these things are going on, right? But I also can appreciate that when Kevin got on TV, he talked about
Yes.
that they owned more cards than this, right?
Yep.
And one of the things that I think is worthwhile to talk about, or at least to be aware of, is that look, the same guy is the one that's out there has been buying all this stuff, right? You have the Luca
Mm-hmm.
logo man, you have the Jordan logo man, you've got a Kobe out there, like all those
Mm-hmm.
cards, right? And that, listen, that's not being aware of it and talking about it. It does has nothing to do with any of the other questions that may go around it. But what it does do is, I think, goes back to something we all talked about a couple weeks ago, was that at the top of this market, it is thin, right? Now we don't
Yeah.
know who the different underbidders were for these, but one of the concepts I think is always important to keep in mind, and you guys would know this, in the auction setting, and Mark, in the value and worth proposition of this stuff, right? In the auction setting, the most important guy isn't the guy who won.
That's
It's
a
probably
bit.
the guy who lost. But the next most important guy is the guy who came in third, because
Yeah.
wherever their bid is really closer to where the floor on something is at. And it's not
Good point.
unusual to see two people get out and start guns blazing at each other. But if I came back to you and said, hey, the third highest bidder on this thing was actually down at $6.1 million. How,
Mm.
how great would you feel about it then? And what kind of impact would that have? Now again, we can't see that because of this particular auction platform. If it had been on eBay though, we could see it. And there's information in that, I believe. Knowing what the third bidder, where were they?
Yeah, but I also
Okay.
do. Also look at it like this. Sorry, Ralph. I do
No,
think
you're good. You're good.
this is important to say about it because how it affects the hobby. I do think that if we're looking at it from like blast radius, right, and what the long term effects are, I think this is a bunker, right? I think the explosion happened in a bunker where I don't think it necessarily resonates throughout the
Yeah,
hobby because
I don't either.
there's not too many cards on this level that are gonna it'll trickle down to. I think
Right.
that it's like it really was bunkered in, and this is the sale,
Yeah.
and there's nothing that's gonna reverberate throughout the ecosystem. Like your Jordans, your Kobe's, they're not gonna all of
Yeah.
a sudden
Right.
become 2, 3, 4x, right?
Right.
We're not gonna see that approach.
No.
Now, if it was, you remember during COVID when the Jordan did sell for 750,000, and there's still some stuff going on around that, but the ones underneath that, I think they do naturally start to tick up because of that
Yep.
sale, but it's not exponentially the way that happened as well. So I do
Well,
want to
that
add
didn't
those.
last, right? That bubble popped fast. As soon as people saw 750 grand print on that card, 10 of them came flooding to auction. Like a
Yeah,
couple of the auction
Mm.
houses had so many people trying to give it to them, they started turning them away because they were like, we can't handle all this. We're going to collapse the
Mm.
market if we auction that many. And that's exactly what happened.
yeah,
Yep, it is. So I have an interesting take right now. I want you guys to tell me your opinion. There's three. I would say there's two most valuable information that you kind of have when you're going into bidding on an auction. That's how many watchers and how many bids. You know the one thing that's missing? How many bidders? How many
Yeah. Yeah.
actual bidders? So to your point, David, yes, you're right. Okay, there was a total of 82 bids on this dual logo, man. How many bidders were
Right.
there? Undisclosed. I
Which
challenge
is
all
a
these auction
massive problem.
houses.
That is a massive
I
problem
agree. That's
at
that's
the
exactly
auction
my point.
house level.
That's exactly my point. I think very relevant information that they need to put out there is how many actual bidders. Because the reality is 82 bids, 5 bidders. That's a problem.
Big problem.
Because that means, okay, we know a company named Secure, who we publicly seen there's at least 3 people involved, all multi-millionaires, right? But we only I mean, let's say 3 people bid on it. I mean, 5 people bid on it. That's 3. Where's the other 2?
Well,
We
I
don't
mean,
need. I think. I mean, I'm
see
just
where
saying
you're
that's a good
thinking,
take
Ted,
though.
but let me say one thing real quick before you jump in, Mark. I'm going to go back to on this. The only reason that information in this particular instance I think could be helpful is if you really believe in your heart and you're convicted that there can be reverberations throughout the rest of the hobby from that sale. If you're like
Yeah.
me and you believe that this, and I agree with you, Mark, I think that was a bunker situation. I think that it is not replicable. I think that is not repeatable. I think that the next thing that comes out that may be expensive is its own thing. And I don't think it helped Kobe autos at all. I don't think it helped
Yeah, it's no
Jordan autos
gauge.
at all. Like if it
But you
helped
started
anything,
seeing people
maybe
post it
it
though.
helped the duels. But yeah, I mean, again,
If this is worth 13 million, my Kobe logo is
yeah, but
Kobe logo is
again,
worth
that
at least 4 million, 5 billion.
people are trying so hard to make that jump, and I just
Yeah.
think that you can't really do it. And so, but when you get into the heart of the hobby, when you start talking about $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 types of Kobe Bryant auto type cards, knowing how many people are actually involved in that does give you a very good sense of how broad the market is at that level. And I think to the
Yeah.
extent if you're looking to try to, if you're doing it more for financial purposes, investment, etc., those numbers of bidders gives you, it tells you beyond just the mania of a particular bid. It really does let you know what's the foundation of people that are out there that want to be involved at these levels, and that can
Yeah.
only add confidence to a market, in my opinion.
I agree with that because we do need to know. I really do believe if we know how many bidders are involved on at least on a high end level, I think it helps us on a low end level. But for sake of this card and future cards that are like that, right? Because we know that shout out to Heritage, we're gonna need to see this replicated on different platforms. If not, then Heritage will be considered the king of the high end market, right? We need to see it
Don't say
replicated.
that to
And
Ken.
Golden, well, see, Golden has a big card that's about to come out within the next
Yeah.
month. It's the 96 upper deck game worn game jersey, Michael Jordan, number to 23. Pack pool, the guy sat on it from 96 and never graded, never did anything. That's supposed to be coming out soon, and I expect that to do big numbers. I mean, during COVID, it did 4.5 million. I would assume it's going to do very close to that. Auto's beautiful, the patch is beautiful. It's ungraded. I wouldn't be surprised if it 9.5 or something crazy, just because that's where we are right now, right? We want to continue to see these big numbers. But to your point, Mark, too, as well, is that card doesn't help the market. It doesn't help the low end market, because there's
where we all
nothing
live
to
at.
gauge it with. Yeah, we have. It's nothing to gauge it with. It's nothing for
But
us
I
to
mean, what do
say.
you want to know the number of bidders though? Like, you want to see that I bid $100,000 on it, knowing I wasn't going to win on it? Like,
No,
why does that?
no,
Why does
no,
that
no,
even make
no.
sense?
Well, for the most part, to
Well,
David's point, it
Mark, if
allows
you
us
were
to
the third
know.
bidder at $100,000, yes, I'd want to know that.
That's
There's a $12.8 million spread between you and the
that's
next
true.
guy.
Yeah,
So
that's a great
if the
point.
talking heads like us are going to run around, and we're not doing it, but y'all know all these other cats are. They're trying to
Yep,
tell you how important this is, and they have none of the information that they need to validate the importance of it. All
that's
they
a
have
great point.
number, and it's
Yeah,
all they talk about. It's all the auction houses ever talk about,
you
and
go
they're all
not
talking
even just the
about it,
auction
and they're
houses.
all begging for cards. Why? The market's been hot, but then you see this, and they're like, "Oh man, free publicity for expensive cardboard.
Exactly,
Send me your stuff. I'll
exactly.
set you a record. I won't put it in writing for you, but boy, we'll work real hard to make sure we do our best." And all while they're
Yeah.
collecting their fees. Like it's a joke.
Here,
It's a joke.
here's a solution. Here's a solution. Here's a solution. Every major auction like this of this caliber, right, needs to be live.
Like
How about
Sotheby's
we do
did.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, right? We at least we know, right? When you watch a Sotheby auction and you see something of that magnitude, and actually what's crazy is me and Justin Wickhauser talked about this. If we Imagine the national, every major card show. You go to the nationals. I challenge one of these big auction houses to do it then.
Mm-hmm.
You sit here, you go to the nationals. Hey guys, we're about to have the top 100 cards ever made. We're gonna auction them here in Chicago at the National. We're gonna line the biggest big dogs come in, and then even if it's a private event, that's fine.
I pay to watch it.
I'd pray to watch it too, because chances are it'd be some stuff I've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you get to see something totally different. You can run it live, you run it stream. You know it's secure versus eBay, or eBay versus what's that other company bought? Home Depot that bought a card, right? Actually, what's funny is one of the persons I bought who actually won this was Walmart. Huh?
You're giving out too many gems, man. Giving out too many gems.
Look, guess what? Guess what? I'm gonna stop giving out the gems. But the reality is this: if you do something like that, that's next level, and you can pay me for it later.
Yeah. I want to see Mark Cuban outbid Mr. Wonderful, like we see on Shark Tank, right? That's what I want to see. Right?
I think if Mark Cuban had $13 million, he would never touch something like this.
I doubt it.
He has 13 million.
He bought the Dallas Mavericks.
No, but I'm just saying he would buy a company. He maybe buy a house, but like even Cuban, I don't think is like some massive landowner. Like he's a completely different style of investor.
But I think though, if you think about it though, he did, like, if you went and looked at, they did a round of bidding for Golden, and I think that he's one of the investors though who invested in Golden. So I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say he wouldn't spend it on that card. I think if it made sense for him, I think he really would, especially if he's on Shark Tank. Giving out money for scooters and vacuum cleaners and stuff, So,
yeah, but remember, he's not buying inventory when he does that. He's buying a business and an expected cash flow.
I agree with that. I agree.
Like, do I believe that a guy like Cuban or these other investors? Well, I think this is a good segue, maybe away from the card to kind of the talk of the hedge funds and the other investing in the hobby, et cetera, right? I believe that sort of money is here, but I think that it is heavily focused on
the wrong things.
On the companies that are already here. So that I think that, listen, anyone who knows anything real about the private equity world knows that these assets are still a massive problem for them. Because and I know from talking to some people in Houston about it, but I've heard it from other people as well. It is incredibly difficult to spend $50 million in a controllable way over a short period of time in this hobby. These things are massively illiquid, and no one, maybe Secure is going to be the first one to crack this nut, but no one is willing to loan money, finance them over any sort of long-term type of period. And they always ask for collateral for others from other areas, whether it's personal or from other things that these guys own in their funds. So all of you talking heads that are out there saying that there's all this PE money and everything's going to blow over. No, it's not. They can't vet these things through those funds. It's not possible. That's why this group is 3 dudes, not 100 dudes, right?
Yeah.
So, and those funds as well, they're most of them have financial regulation that come along with it. They've got tons of reporting requirements, a bunch of rules and regulations that they have to follow that none of this crap could live up to. That's why they invest in the companies, though. So, like you said, if auction houses were out there raising money, I think that funds could potentially invest in that kind of stuff. We know that there's probably some institutional type of investing in stuff like arena clubs and other people like that. I'm sure those sorts of things have happened and will continue to happen. Those are all positive developments. But guys, those people are not going to come in and start buying cards. That is absolutely not going to happen.
I will say this, David. You're right for one. I'm very surprised that Kevin O'Leary actually was a part of this because yes, he's a very analytic person. When you watch him on Shark Tank, it's like if the numbers don't make sense, it doesn't make sense. You know what I think would have been a better investment, and you probably might think I'm crazy if he did it, created their own. If Secure created their own repack, might have been way more beneficial when you think about what. Nah, don't look. I'm gonna give you some real simple numbers, right? Think, do some research on what Arena Club has done in a short period of time. Think about that as an investment for a business, right?
But
Business
remember
model where
too, like
virtual
Arena Club
packs.
made a massive pivot, right? Like
Oh, agreed. Very quickly.
When Arena Club went to raise money the first time, it was under a completely different setup than what they're doing now, right? And what they've become now. They're basically not doing much of anything that they said they were going to set out to do.
They have it on there. No, they still have their marketplace. They still have a marketplace.
No one uses that thing. They make the overwhelming amount of their money off the repacks. Like let's stop trying to dress it up. It is what it is. And look, give them credit for making the pivot into something that really gave them an opportunity to extend their runway, to allow an opportunity for the hobby to grow and them to grow along with it. Like I'm not being critical.
Well, the dope part about the hobby is we're okay with monopolizing ourselves and cannibalizing ourselves and being able to cut off everybody else. And that's the fact, right? Yeah. You literally have a company like PSA where they started a branch where collectors, where you not only you grade a card, right? They can sell it for you. So they make money off grading the card. They make money off selling the card. The person pulls the card out of the marketplace. They make money off shipping the card too.
Yes.
So literally you monopolize yourself and you recycle these customers, which Apple was amazing at. And they took that concept and it was like, let's figure out a way to make money off these people a million times. Right. And that's what we're seeing happen. Arena Club had the same thing. Yes, they came into it with a marketplace. I'm not going to say it failed, but they pivoted. Like you said, David, it went from, hey, we're doing this, but
we're going to grade cards. They were going to put the biggest trading platform anyone's seen out there. And like, no one trades anything there. VeriSwap probably stomps them in terms of volume of actual trading.
Here Mark, goes a different take, you guys. This is a different take. So you said that they could have pivoted into something else. Well, I mean, there's a lot of other people doing that already. They wanted to introduce themselves in a spectacular way. They have other cards in their portfolio. We don't know anything about those other cards, right? Other than the one that they posted. Okay.
Okay.
How much do you think the publicity that they're getting from this sale would have cost them, right, if they didn't buy this card?
I agree with the fact that they got a lot of publicity, but it goes back to what I'm saying to you, right?
They didn't do it just for that. No chance.
I mean, but there's
I agree with that too. But here's the thing though. What can you, as an investor, you're Kevin O'Leary, what can you spend $13 million on and get a higher return? I'll ask you guys this question.
But I look at it like this,
though.
So here
goes the deal. What can you make off $13 million?
So now they're positioning themselves as the biggest buyers in the world. Okay, that's what they're positioning themselves at, and they're going to leverage that. We all know being in this space, it's about the laws of attraction. If you're positioning yourself as the biggest buyer in the entire space, you don't think that the guy holding the PSA 10, the next time he thinks about moving that card, that PSA 10 rookie mantle, by the way, that's been quoted to be in a $20-40 million card. So you don't think that if that guy said, right? These guys just spent the most money on a card ever, right? Publicly. You don't think that that's the first phone call that they're going to make, right? To say, hey,
no,
I would think so. It's not going to go to auction.
No. There is no loyalty when it comes
to auction, assuming it ever sells. Like Ken Kendrick has it. That card will never change hands.
When it's done,
just throwing some numbers out there real quick. The top 20 cards in the world are probably worth more than Kevin O'Leary's net worth. And I'm not sitting here counting this man's pockets, but let's just sit here and say his net worth is somewhere around $400 million. You spend $20 million. I mean, you spend $20 million on 2 cards. I'm saying he didn't do it by himself. Well, I'm just throwing some numbers out there. To your point, David, earlier, you said, who's that number 3 guy? As far as we know, there was only 8 people that bid on the card.
Right.
maybe
And
6 people that bid on
and
a
a couple of
card.
them bid early because they knew they were going to get outbid.
Exactly. I'm gonna put I already know Shine off for 8 million. Okay, I'm gonna put a flyer out there, 6 million. Maybe he ain't got it right now.
Yeah.
6 million. He ain't got it right now. All right, Shine puts in 8. And I'm just sitting here saying just some numbers, right? We don't know what's going on, but the reality is, like, I think there's more transparency that needs to be out there. I don't necessarily, man, from a business standpoint, I hope we see more from Secure, right?
Yeah.
But I believe it would have been nice to maybe see them slow roll it out. Hey, pop up in some shows, say what's up, right? Not, I mean, maybe you could take the approach of just buying 2,000 PSA 10 Giannis's, and then all of a sudden Giannis's prices are $6,000, and then you whatever, right? You sell them and you move on. But the reality is,
they're not going to do that. It's too hard to manage all that. No chance that happens.
Agreed. And that's to me what the biggest problem with a lot of the when you're dealing with the 1%, the 1%, you would say the 1% of the guys who literally are multi-millionaire, 400 million deep, whatever, 200 million, 100 million deep. Most guys aren't bidding on those type of things. I mean, it definitely takes a special type of person, but I hope we can see more from Secure. Shout out to Heritage, shout out to Secure. I'm not putting anything down. I just want to kind of just think about this here, right? We're all trying to focus on being more educated consumers. We want to start digesting things a little differently. And I think we just think outside the box. We kind of like think with our heads and not just with the fact that, yes, it's being publicized everywhere. I just don't know, Mark, that $13 million was worth advertisement.
I do, man. I think 100%. I think it legitimizes their company. I think it puts them on the spectrum. I 100% think that because of the laws of attraction, they're going to attract these cards. As you saw, Shine put it up on his page saying we want the best of the best. They've already shown that they're going to come strong. You don't have to put it on auction and wait 2 weeks, a month to get paid. We can pay you right now, today.
We just talked about private versus auction, though. We literally just talked about private. Look, if you
it was an investment.
To what you,
I think in most situations, if you want the most money, you should run an auction.
Absolutely, that's exactly my point. So I think
it doesn't make sense.
And there you go, Mark. So if you have a Kobe Bryant flawless logo, man, if you really want to see it, ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit, because I know sometimes the auctions don't necessarily work. That $8 million, and it's been situations where somebody will offer, hey man, I'll offer you $80,000. And then it runs on auction, it does $60,000, and then that happens a lot of times with collectors, right? Man, where'd that guy go? I mean, there's a lot of tight rope.
Listen, remember it happened to the most notable that I think that we saw. It wasn't the Jordan stuff. It was actually the LeBron Exquisites when they popped off a couple years ago, right? And there were people that were moving in and out of those things relatively quickly, a week or two at a time. And y'all will remember the market just kind of at one point, it's just sort of unexpectedly just threw an airball on everybody. And like those exquisites started dropping 10, 20, 30%, like out of nowhere. And it was just like, what happened here? Right. And so like in that situation, you would have probably been a lot better off trying to do
selling it,
a private sale for sure. But
100%.
But that's why I say, like, this run that we're on right now, it's going to eventually hit a cap because the
market's going
to become oversaturated, and that's what drives the market up. Is is the scarcity of everything. So if it's scarce, it will remain valuable. If it becomes oversaturated, then we're going to see everything fall back to the ground.
So we got about 15 minutes left in the show, and I want to try to put this thing out on a close. David, I want you to go ahead and go on that rant that you want to. Did you say everything you wanted to say?
No, I think I'm good. I mean, it sounds to me like we all pretty much agree on this, is that like we are all, I believe, equally excited to see the hobby growing. We're equally excited to sort of see it, catching on in other media environments. I think that we would all welcome more and more participation from people across the entire spectrum of it, right? I think that we also agree that there was little to nothing about this sale that impacted anything that you're doing for the foreseeable future. Your portfolio didn't double or triple overnight. And if any of you guys that see this are out there like plotting your next big move because Shine and Kevin O'Leary bought an expensive card,
And you don't even know the third guy's name.
Yeah, you're creating
exactly. Who is the third guy?
His name's Paul. You're creating stress for yourself that you don't need. Like you need to keep focusing on the grind that you're in and the things that are working, and eliminate from your process the things that aren't, and like continue to be curious. Get out there, ask questions, like and leverage the relationship and the introduction to other people part of this hobby, because that's the part that can really help you get grounded in where your lane is going to be, whether you're trying to make money or looking for particular types of cards or whatever. And like, listen, turn off the noise of these other people that are telling you like, oh,
looks like we lost him. So hopefully he'll be back shortly. We gotta wait a minute.
I will say this though, since
go ahead, Mark.
So look, I will say this: that sale isn't going to resonate throughout the hobby, right? But there's some other auctions that are ending over the course of the next couple of weeks that will, because
what highlights you're seeing?
I've seen just some on Golden 100, right? They have Kobe autos running from 10 to 500,000. They have Jordan autos running in the same kind of window. They have LeBron, Curry. We're seeing all these different kind of ranges of cars being ran right now. That is going to tell us what the pulse of the hobby is, and is going to resonate throughout the entire ecosystem. So I'll just say that. And the one other thing I'll say while he comes back is, you mentioned, what are these other auction houses going to do now that Heritage has been posting some of the highest recorded sales over the last year? Heritage sales completely changed the landscape on exquisite cards. Now with this sale, they're positioning themselves as the ultimate ultra high end seller.
That's
now
correct.
It's going to be interesting to see what Golden does next. Like, what card do they have to go to? Because essentially they're positioning themselves that they have to go after the 1 and 2 that will potentially
100%
on auction.
100%.
Yeah. We saw it on the Netflix show that he offered the guy like $10 million up front to run it on his auction. So that's the kind of thing that I want to see
come David.
out of it. That healthy competition, and how what kind of ideas and strategies they have to come up with, and what's the next big card that's going to come to auction.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens there. David, let us know when you're back. You're back? You're good?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah. We can hear you. You good?
Yeah, just trying to figure out how to get the video back.
All right. Well, we can see you just fine, but once David actually comes back, we'll let him go ahead and speak and finish what he was talking about. Until then, we're going to talk about the next topic, unless David's here. David, you're back? I think he's frozen. It was me that was frozen last time. So, for the most part, I don't know what else to say. Mark, you got it.
No, I mean, we can go into the next one, man. I think we've kind of kicked that. We went through all kinds of avenues from it.
Yeah.
But I will say on the next topic, these shows, these shows.
3 shows.
3 shows right before. Everybody was jockeying for position right before the National.
Hold on, man. You gotta talk about it, man. We gotta talk about it more detailed than that. What shows? July 16th through the 19th of 2026. There are 3 major shows head to head going against each other. David, can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
All right, you want to finish up before we talk about it? Okay. All right, so all right, we're just gonna go there. We'll bring you back in, David, to close to what you were saying earlier. Once we kind of talk about this. So July 16th through the 19th of 2026, 3 major shows back to back will be competing for your attention.
Yeah, not back to back
Fanatics
to back
Fest,
on the same weekend.
No, all on the same weekend. And
all
listen,
same weekend. Oh, that's right.
I've had multiple people reach out to me because there's when you go to try to find the Fanatics dates, they're not necessarily out there. Um, and that's okay. I saw it somewhere, but it has. I don't know that it's been officially publicized, but it doesn't matter. We know Dallas and West Coast for sure going head to head, right? And those I have never attended the West Coast, but I know you guys have. But I know y'all do Dallas same as I do. I think that is a terrible result for a lot of people in the hobby, or
Yeah.
certainly Road Warrior bunch, right? Because you're going to have to pick. And to the extent that I know the Dallas card show in particular has really lived off the back of the repack crew for the last
And the
two,
big
3
major
years.
vendors. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if those repackers have to decide where they're going to be, and I know in the past sometimes they split their team up, but like I can't split my booth up, boys. I don't have people that could go to the West Coast and to Dallas at the same time, and if I did
Yeah.
that, I'd be destroying the quality of what I'd have available at my booth. So now I'm someone who thinks that this is fantastic. Um, because listen, because in my opinion, the overwhelming majority of promoters of shows, present company temporarily excluded from this, they have, and probably permanently excluded, but they have given little to no effort, no care whatsoever around the people that attend their shows and the quality of the show. They sit back and they buy black tablecloths. They throw tables out as close as they can be. You couldn't even lay down in the aisle in Dallas most of the time. There's so many tables packed in there. And everyone's got a table, but then nobody can get one. The quality of these shows has been abysmal because the promoters can be lazy and collect money from vendors and keep charging more at the door. So I am 1,000% behind. I want as much competition on that weekend as we could get. I think it would be awesome if Fanatics Fest is going too, because they can afford to lose money on their show. Those other two can, and that's not a strike against Dallas or a strike against the West Coast guys. I think that these shows need to start getting serious about appealing to their local market. The people that
Agreed.
in those shows are the ones that should be holding it together, not the travel crew, not the vlog crews, not the, I mean, no disrespect to you guys, but like not the
No, you're
Ross,
right.
other people running their cameras. It needs to be devoted to putting on a superior event for the people that live where you're putting that show on. And then you add the out of towners and the other people on top of it. That's how you end up getting a good show, in my opinion.
Well,
So competition will be awesome for the end users. It'll be problematic initially for vendors, but it'll force people to do some things that they've been too lazy to do so far. And I
and
welcome
being
that
honest with you,
100%.
David, you bring up a great point, and I'm not going to tell any promoter what to do, but I will say this: as a promoter, it is our responsibility to create an event that people from that are part of the hobby, and as well as people that are not a part of the hobby, can enjoy. Right? Um, I've actually been privy to this because my very first show that I ever did, we competed versus Dallas. We announced we had a show. Not even a month later, now all of a sudden Dallas has a show as well, competing with us the exact same weekend. We still managed to have over 5,000 attendees our very first show, and we had over 300 tables that were vendors as well. So we had an amazing show. That was 5 years ago. I agree with the fact of what you're saying, and honestly, it took me almost 5 years to really understand how much what you're saying is really very, very relevant. Um, and for that reason, a lot of times I think we as promoters and as I gotta say high end collectors or whatever you want to call it, or vendors, should focus on our community more. Our community more. It's not Michael Rubin's job to make the hobby 10x. It's every vendor, every card shop, every card show responsibility to try to figure out a way to grow our space. The unfortunate part is we don't see it that way. And I ain't gonna lie to you. Our next show is September 12th through the 14th. It's not just a shout out to push the show, but the reason why that's important is because our show competes with Collecticon and it's in our own city, and that's fine, right? The reality is this: Collecticon caters towards TCG, and that's primarily what they're known for. Culture Collision is a sports card based show that introduces these other gateways, right? Sneakers, sports cards, memorabilia, and so on and so forth. But the reality is the reason why I was interested in it is because I was really wanting to figure out a way to bring in new people by appealing to different people, right? And then say, hey, that's cool. These sneakers are cool, but cards can be cool too. And so, and that was just my logic of thinking as a promoter, as someone was trying to think outside of the box a little bit more and say, hey, look, you can be a part of this space too. The unfortunate part is, yes, when I got to the point to where I was like, okay, I got to go to different shows to try to promote Culture Collision. That's wrong. I'm 100% going to tell you that's wrong. The reality is we should be focused on our community and growing our community.
Yep.
There is, let's just throw a number out there. There's 20 million people that live.
Well, I mean, you would know what's the percentage of attendees at your show that come from the Atlanta area?
Absolutely, that's a great point.
It's massive.
50%. 50% of our vendors are from Georgia.
No, but I'm saying attendees.
Oh, attendees, absolutely, absolutely. At least 80%. 80%. I would say 80 to 90%. We do get a lot of visitors. I'm not gonna lie to you. We get a lot of visitors.
Yeah.
But 80 to 90% of our vendor. I'm sorry, 50% of our vendors are from Georgia, and 90% of our customers that come in are from Georgia or surrounding areas. Right. So. The reality is we should be focused on our community. It's unfortunate that we don't see. And I'll say this, I'll give a good example. Going to the West Coast Card Show, and I told you this, Mark, we saw every major card shop at that show. Every major card shop was at the West Coast.
Locals.
That's correct. Which is a great thing because if it's an 1,100 table show, you want to see that. And so to your point, David, guess where I'll probably end up being? I'll probably end up being at the Dallas show, and I'll say the reason why is because I don't want to spend $3,500. I don't want to spend $10,000 to go to a show in New York City. And I love Fanatics Fest. And I think it's an amazing show. I think what they've done in a short period of time, they created some nostalgia. They created something different. Well, a little different. It's like Culture Collision on steroids, but that's another conversation. The reality is they created something that was unique. They invited people that was unique. You know, I think there's some things I would do a little bit better, but they'd have to pay me for that information. The reality is it's our responsibility as a promoter to create an experience, to invite new people. Atlanta has 10 million people that live here. My responsibility is to at least get 1%. 1%. California, 20 million people. 20 million people there.
I think you got to focus on your market.
Go ahead.
And yes, there's a level of also focusing on your vendors too.
Agreed.
Like I appreciate that exists as well, right? But yeah, I love it. I love that G's here because I share that with him. The fact that all that is like lined up 2 weeks in front of Chicago.
Yeah, but I think he's a little different though, man. He lives in Chicago though, right? So obviously he's
I understand that,
but here goes my take, man. As someone who just started traveling to shows this year, last year Fanatics Fest was the first time I ever went to New York, right? And it was because of Fanatics Fest. Right, the first time I ever went to California was because of the West Card Show. Okay, and not the first time I've been to Dallas because I live in Texas. But I say it is a disservice, right? I am one of the few, I guess, in these crowd full of three that will say that I'm a little bummed that they chose to have all three of them on the same weekend because that means that next year I have to do the pros and cons list to see which one is more suited for me. You know, and I'm not going to probably be able to go to New York next year because it doesn't fall in line with, you know, what my expectations are for that weekend. And obviously I go into every weekend trying to be as profitable as possible. And the most profitable is the most local to me, which is going to be the Dallas Car Show as well, because it's a 3-hour drive for me. Every time you go and you set up as a vendor at the Fanatics Fest, it's over $3,000, right? To even be a vendor.
Yeah.
And so, in Dallas Card Show, which it isn't in New York, is substantially less, and so is the West Card, card show. Now their tables as well to fly out there, right? You got to get a flight there. You got to get the room. You got to do all that. That cost to go
Yeah.
out there is a lot more than a Dallas Card Show,
Yep.
and we've already seen that all three of them, in regards to from a vendor standpoint, are all three in line with each other, right? I've actually done better at a Dallas Card Show than I have at the West Coast and that I have in Fanatics. So for me, obviously, I'm going to go to the place where I'm going to be more successful at. So,
Yeah.
and I will go back to this. What we've seen over the last 2 years, and that we see this space continue to grow. What we've seen is everything leading up to the national is prime real estate, and I say that because everyone's trying to buy, everybody's trying to sell, they're trying to
Yeah.
get more liquid, or they're trying to get more inventory, so that they can go to the national, which is the Super Bowl for us, as we talked about on a previous show. And then what we start to see after, right, the national is, man, sometimes it's like a 3, 4, 5 week, before and after the national, and we start getting exhausted and fatigued, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
you going back to school and the other stuff. No.
Yeah, so you don't want to be on the dirty end of that at times, right?
Listen, I'm with you, Mark. I don't take my enthusiasm for the competition as me believing that this is actually good for any of us, because it's not. What it does point out is, though, this is an area where, and because I don't want to extend this too long, if we need to talk about it again another week, we should. But the question that I would ask you, Mark, is if I don't have direct competition on the weekend, what is it that forces West Coast Card Show to be better? In our home state, and Roth knows this is true, I've complained about this Dallas thing till I was blue in the face, and everyone told me that I didn't know and that I'm just Mr. Negative. Well, every time you go up there, it's the same thing. What have they innovated? They brought new autograph guests to the show, but otherwise, all they do, they add more tables, they jam more people in, and the quality of the experience plummets. And if you've been there on Sunday, that main room is 40% open on a Sunday. They still charge ticket prices to people all the way up until 2-3 o'clock on that day. It's a joke. So the only way that I can think of to make these guys sit down and stop counting their dollars and actually look at how to spend them properly to put on a better event is somebody else had to step forward and book the same weekend and be like, you know what? I'll compete for those same dollars. Let's find out who can do it better. That's why I'm excited about it. I don't want it to live very long. These guys didn't even have the courtesy to talk to each other about the weekends they were picking as it related to their vendors. And I guarantee you there's a 20% crossover of vendors between West Coast and Dallas. There absolutely has to be.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I don't know. I will say this. Most of the vendors in California I feel like they're from California. I mean, a lot of those guys I don't really see. So I do think that West Coast will be fine. I do believe that Dallas will be fine. I think the biggest hurt could be Fanatics Fest. And that's only just because, right? And that's just kind of putting it out there. And again, maybe you should talk about this another week. But the reality is this. Fanatics Fest costs, right? Fly New York is not cheap, right? If I'm looking for some of the best cards in the world, I'm not going to lie to you. There was a lot of nice cards in West Coast. There's typically a lot of nice cards in Dallas, right? The thing that Fanatics Fest has over most of these other vendors is they have the requirement of they have the requirement of shop owners and breakers that have to be at their event. So guess what? If you want to go see certain vendors, that's going to take certain people away, right? I'm not going to say any names. I'm just going to say that there's certain people that you're not going to see at those other shops. So that's the only thing. Like,
But if you're a
and it's
vendor,
going to be very
this is a
interesting.
great point. You're bringing up such a good point on this. If you're one of those vendors, with a shop located in Dallas, Texas, and that was normally going to be your thing for that week, and because again, we don't know, I guess we don't know for sure that Fanatics is that weekend, but let's pretend for the discussion continuation that it is, right? If Tops is going to go jam down your throat that you have to miss two of the biggest shows that happen every year during and around that time because you have to go to New York, what does that tell you about what they think about you and your business? Because I think it says a lot. And I think if they want to be the guys that are for collectors and the guys that are for the shop owners, they'll have to think about and address that. And they've got more money to spend than the other guys to do it. Like,
well,
hey,
that's a dangerous topic, but that's a dangerous topic, David. But I will say this though, I felt like this a long time ago. And we talked about this, Mark, a while ago, where I felt like if I'm Fanatics and Tops, instead of creating the competition, right? Then what I do is I align myself with the collectors and the people who are already doing it. I felt like that Tops and Fanatics should have backed every major show and made it to where they were a part of the hobby versus saying, we can do it better. We're going to do it our way. Come to our show. Versus let me go to Coach Collision, let me go to West Coast, let me go to Dallas, let me go to Chicago, and let me be a part of their show and their experience, and then we do it our own way. Exactly. Because the reality is it's no different than what the Nationals created on a once a year level, where you would meet eBay once a year. You'd meet PWC, well, not PWC, well, Fanatics Live once a year, because that's the only show that they support besides Fanatics Fest. That's a disservice even to the collectors, the vendors, everybody. You know, the number one thing I get asked as a promoter is, what grading company is going to be at the show?
Yes.
Guess what? None of these guys support regional shows. I'm sorry. They support what makes this.
Yes.
Right? Even if you have the numbers, they still don't necessarily support you. So it's like the number one question, even to this day, even for the September show, hey, will you have any grader service there? Who's going to be there? Guess what? Even though these major companies makes millions, multi-millions of dollars a year, they don't pay it back. Yeah. They don't do anything. I don't see it happening. I don't know, David. I don't know if you see it. I don't see any kids programs out there by eBay anymore. I don't see anything out there, but I challenge these people to actually focus on trying to grow the hobby and being a part of the hobby.
Mark go. He's waiting patiently.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So here goes two things, man. You said what grading company is going to be there. PSA is going to be at all three because they have 3 facilities in all 3 of those locations. That's for grading, okay? But here goes the other thing.
Okay.
Here goes a different take. Fanatics, this is a tune-up fight for Fanatics, okay? We all say that they're eventually going to try to take on the National, all right? Well, I mean, I think that's my opinion on it, at least, is that eventually they're going to get big enough. So why not take on 2 other shows on the same weekend and see what impact that has on you, and then get ready to take on the big dog, which is the National. To me, I think that the National can take notes from Fanatics Fest, just like Fanatics Fest can take notes from the National if it wants to be a card show. I think Fanatics Fest right now is more of an entertainment center than it caters to its vendors and its card dealers. So I think that if they both got together and had a baby, then they would, we'd have the best of every world at that point. But I just will say that, man. It's just, I think that they're gearing up. They don't care who's on the same weekend. I'm talking about Fanatics Fest because, honestly, they think that they're next level. And what better platform to do that on is to compete with other big shows on the same weekend to see how they come out.
Yeah, I think that, and I know we've been kind of pushing the whole narrative of it being a big disservice, but being honest with you, I think all 3 shows will be fine. The only thing that's really going to hurt is the vendors. I would say the vendors are going to get the low end of the stick because we could have had 3 quality shows And
But
now we get to choose. We have
you're
to choose
saying the
one.
vendors, but it's not just the vendors. It's the people that are attending, man. Like Fanatics Fest is gonna give you
I will
everything
say
they
I
give you.
agree.
Like so I disagree with you. I think that this is terrible news for the guys in Dallas because I think if you
Look. See, here's
gave
the
them a
thing.
choice, I think if you gave the travel crew anyway a choice of Dallas
Yeah.
or Burbank or West Coast, most of them are going to go to West Coast. There will be some that go to
I would
Dallas,
say
but not all.
I would say if you're a road warrior like most guys are, they're gonna choose 2 or 3 shows. They're gonna go to all three. They're either gonna do two. Hey, I'm going to West Coast. I'm going to Dallas, and I'm going to New York. If you're part of the New York crew, maybe that's something that you do as a dynamic. And I've been to 2 or 3 shows in one weekend. That's not something
Yeah.
that's that doesn't happen. We've done that before. But the reason why I say that the consumer is going to be okay and the vendors are going to not is because we don't get a chance to meet those crowds that weekend and set up at those shows that we probably would have. I think the reality is there's probably 40 million people, and I'm probably being sarcastic here by saying there's 40 million people in New York. Those people that went to Fanatics Fest, most of those people that came into the show live in New York. They're going to go to that show and it's going to be fine. The disservice is going to be for the vendors because ultimately, let's just say West Coast Card Show had 1,100 tables. Maybe they do 700 because they know that they're going to compete with for the vendors situation. Oh, you think you're going to sell 1,100 tables again?
But remember, but again,
Well,
Mark, this is I mean, this goes back to I've said this forever about Dallas. Selling more tables doesn't give you a better event. Every person that comes through does not somehow gravitate towards the middle of the pack of the overall scope of the vendors. When you open up more tables, all you've done is the promoter collects money from a person or two who was otherwise going to be standing in the aisles or sitting behind the table with you as a buddy, spending money. So all it does, it takes money out of the card ecosystem and puts it in the show promoter's pocket. It does nothing to assist commerce within the shows. And so the promoters act in their own self-interest to do that. And they've continually not done more to make their shows better. And you
I agree.
Every one of these other regional shows that happen, and I could start naming names.
Well, I will say this:
these people about
West Coast. Well, I know you didn't say West Coast. I will say shout out to West Coast Card Show's crew. They do an amazing job in terms of the aesthetics of how the show looks. Rob and Burbank, their partnership is amazing. They have everybody, right? Fanatics Fest will have everybody they don't. But to your point, though, David, even though I'll probably be set up at the Dallas Card Show, is to your point, Dallas hasn't done anything to make it better. They haven't brought in. I mean, well, we've seen the radio station pop up, right?
And that helped keep people around on some Sundays. So they've done some small things. But
that's nothing new, though. That's nothing new. That's nothing unique. That's nothing unique. Yeah. Like the reality is that when I came with an idea 5 years ago to try to make show different, to make try to do a show differently, right? I was like, okay, well, how can I include other people? I want women to be able to come to a card show and think it's cool. The cool thing is you go to a TCG show, they have probably the most diverse. They have the most diverse card show ever. That's 100%. Probably exactly, and that's probably why they're doing so well, right? Women don't typically think cards are cool. They might think it's cool now that they know a card sells for $13 million. So to our point before in the hobby is, hey babe, I got this card worth $13 million. My wife's like, whatever. It's not worth anything until I sell it. She's probably more excited. Yeah. It's exciting when we get it. Oh, I own the card. Yeah. I have it. The chase is gone. And then to your wife or to a female, it's like,
I mean, look, last thing I wanted to say on the calendaring of all this stuff too is everybody moved to their show, right? Dallas had traditionally been over the July 4th weekend. West Coast had held off until August. Like those two things have been consistent for the last 2-3 years for both those shows. So it was a little curious to me that they moved their weekends the way that they did. Now I know sometimes that has to do with the event space and whatever, but if Fanatics also moved theirs, that was all three people intentionally trying to get 2 weeks in front of Chicago. So like you mentioned, prime real estate in those weeks. But Listen, it's there's no doubt in my mind that if that keeps happening, you're cannibalizing the market. That it's not
Yeah,
good for expansion.
I think it's
Yeah,
inevitable.
it is.
It's
Yeah,
inevitable. It's inevitable because like
too
when
much
you
easy
see
money. This
companies
is
like
going to kill
Collecticon go
margins
from
for these
well,
promoters.
agree. Honestly, the unfortunate part is I'm the only promoter on the show, but I see it right. I see it when. But here's the thing though, as a promoter, hey, if I only got 2 dates to choose from, and I got to choose like literally
Yeah,
for me, and I'll be personal about it. I had to choose between Dallas Card Show and Collecticon. And to me, even though Dallas Card Show was a week before us, I knew that if I competed with Dallas, then I would
yeah.
lose most of my.
You're going to lose a lot
I
of
would
your out
lose
of town
that other
vendors.
thirty
Yeah, yeah.
percent. Of course, because most people that go to Dallas do sports
Yep,
cards. Collecticon is very
yep.
different. It's a little different. You probably get 10% of sports cards there. I mean, yeah, they have 900 tables and maybe 100 of them are sports cards, but with us, it's
Yeah,
more. So to me, I was trying to cater towards what I felt like made the most sense. And of course, we have to make those tough
right.
decisions. And people may not necessarily like every decision that we make, but we have to do it. And I think you brought up a point, David. All I'm focused on is trying to create a great experience. And that's all I can
Yep.
do. And that's it. And I think we'll kind of end it on that note. Unless you guys have, I'll give you one more chance to say something. Mark, you got something?
No, I'm good, man. I'm good. But I will
You
say
sure?
this, man. Y'all hopped into that conversation talking about concentrating on your regional ecosystems. I think
Yes.
with those three having three dynamic shows on the same weekend, they are just doing that. They are concentrating on their local environments, not really catering to everyone outside of their ecosystems. And so probably they're taking that approach. We're just gonna concentrate on our vendors, which majority are going to be local. Not there isn't a ton of
Yeah,
traveling vendors. For the most part, you're going to fill it up with the people that are there anyway. So, and a lot of people that are going to those shows, they don't travel across the globe to
I
show.
agree.
So, I think they're going to be okay, and I think that they're just going to concentrate on their local ecosystems, which is kind of what you said. Concentrate on your local ecosystem. So they're doing just that.
All right, cool. So, all right, guys. So brings me up to my next thing I wanted to talk about. Picks of the week.
Hmm.
Are you ready,
Let's go.
David? You have it. All right. So last week I was at West Coast Card Show. One of my favorite pickups. You probably going to think it's weird, but it's the new modern day bad boy Prizm Silver BGS 10 Draymond Green. That's a cool pickup. You don't like it?
I don't like
I'm
Draymond. I
sorry.
think
I
he's
like it.
massively
It's first year
overrated.
Prizm.
Hmm.
I mean, he's an all-star, probably 6 or 7 time.
That guy,
He's probably a first ballot. I'm pretty sure he's a first ballot Hall of Famer too.
life on the line. Would you let him shoot a three to save you?
I mean, what choices do I have?
Draymond or anyone else?
Do I have a choice?
Hey, I'm gonna find a way to pay Steph so I can
Oh,
get
Yes,
a line.
exactly.
anyone else?
No, but Draymond's the
Jalen
sort of
Green
guy
in the
that
playoffs.
Draymond's a lot like some other players where if he doesn't play for you, you hate him. When he plays for you, you love him. Like, I get it.
All right, cool. So, Mark, you have anything? David, you have
Nah, I'm
anything?
good.
Maybe next time.
I posted to
All
my
right.
YouTube and my IG today, finally, my Mookie Betts pickups from Chicago. People have been waiting on that, and I
Let's
was
go.
like, I was a month late getting that out. But there's one big, like, well-known Mookie in there, but there's also a couple rookie cards too. So you should check that out. I also want to shout out Gerald for jumping in here too.
Go shout that guy out, man.
You say,
Gerald's a good
shout
dude.
out to Gerald, man. Look, Gerald got a chance to hold that
Yeah,
card
he
and actually
did.
sleep with that
Well,
card.
the
Yeah, for
story
a
that
long
doesn't
time.
get
I'm
told
talking about
is that he actually had over 30 of the dual logo mans from that set at one point. So it wasn't just that one that he's owned.
That's insane. That's
nasty,
crazy.
bro. Nasty. Shout out to
Yeah,
Gerald,
Gerald-
man. Like I said, he was a part of the curve, man. Growing up in Chicago, he was a Chicago kid,
Yeah.
so I get it. George's the GOAT or the greatest for basketball for all that matters. But he got a chance to sleep with that card, hold that card. I wish I could hold that card. But now it's in some vault.
Here, Vault.
All right, so guys, I really appreciate you guys chiming in. for the show next week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. New topic, new discussions. Anybody in the chats, Instagram, anybody, feel free to hit us with some topics. I'm sure David's going to hit us up with some crazy topics, but let's see what happens next week in the hobby. Hit us up anytime. Man, play it on repeat. Good night.